Let's talk a little bit more about these games, the industry at large, and for that, let's bring in Michael Priem. Michael is the founder and CEO of the marketing firm Modern Impact. Where do you start on something like this? I mean, this is such a huge, I don't even know how you characterize it. I mean, everybody is involved in this, the economic standpoint, the fun of it. So let's talk about the latest games, the technologies, the trends in the gaming industry that have been unveiled at Gamescom. And doing the research, there seems like right now it's like a golden era. There's a ton going on, and it's a great time to be a gamer, and the technology is making it a great time to be a developer.
Yeah, the globalization of the gaming community is in its heyday, I would say, right now. If you go back and you just think about it from an anthropological perspective, many of the people that grew up decades ago on things like Nintendo, Sony PlayStation, and Xbox are now, they're Gen X, right? Some of them are, 50 plus years old now, all the way into the young. So oftentimes when we think about the gamification of society, we always associate it just as the youth. And obviously that there's a strong attraction for the youth market, but gaming has, as a community, is very wide and rampant globally.
Yeah, and Gamescom is Europe's largest gaming event, a major platform for developers, publishers, hardware manufacturers, you name it. How important is this, not just in Europe, but as you talked about, this is a global phenomenon that we're dealing with right now?
It really is. And if you think about games from just a few decades ago, they really came out of the West. They came from, Xbox. They were developed in the States. You think about Blizzard, Activision, Epic. And if you look at really the big trend of what's happening is the use of AI. One of the big launches at the show has been Dune Awakening. And if you think about it, and you just stop for 1 second and decompile what's behind that, it's the use of current pop culture. But if you think about just the movie, they used Epic's Unreal Engine. So the gaming industry, while we think about it just as these consoles or a device or a game that's out there, the monetization of them is huge. But these same gaming companies are building the software that's driving AI, and they're driving some of the content that we watch even in the movie business and the movie studios.
Yeah, and China's gaming market, one of the largest in the world, revenue now surpassing $45 billion last year, and China really leading globally in mobile gaming market. Do a search right now on the web, and Black Myth Wukong comes up, and everybody's talking about it. It's hard to overstate the positive buzz and what this means to people in China and really abroad as well.
Well, you're starting to see the opposite of what historically has been the U.S. exporting the games, and now we're starting to see with that globalization it coming from the East as well. And it's really an exciting time what that means. There are the rapid adoption of mobile gaming, where it's the ease and access with everybody on a smartphone to be able to engage. And candidly, the revenues associated with mobile gaming are intense. So watching that rapid adoption and then seeing the modification and the value in revenue that drives up these games is astronomical.
And Michael, it's really hard to overstate where this is going to. Kind of give me some insight into what you feel the ceiling could be in all of this from a global standpoint once again.
Well, I don't really know where the ceiling is. I think that it's a market that's going to only continue to exponentially grow. You got to understand that esports and how we engage and watch sports, there's a fine line between what that means and how gambling and how the whole gamification world is really melding. Games used to be a console, a device. We had to go to a store. We're familiar with those from the West with, meme stocks and the Reddit with GameStop and just the cultural impact of that. That's not how we buy or procure games anymore. We all have a device, whether it be a phone that's not more than a couple feet from our bodies, that gives us access anytime for the gamification of society. So I don't see a cap right now on where this is going. You do have regulatory issues because of the rapid adoption that countries like China are trying to monitor with minors, et cetera. Those are probably more of the bigger impediments than it is just users and revenue.
And let's talk about some of the key Chinese players as well in this global scene. Tencent, NetEase, where are these companies going to be in the future? Because as you said, mobile gaming, it seems to be where it's going.
Well, I mean, you've watched in the past 18 months a name like Tencent that wasn't as a widely known of a name in just the US or North American market, which has grown significantly just even with their unaided recall with consumers. So I think right now what you're watching is, their domestic success right now is globalizing, and it's globalizing quickly. So I think you're going to see more and more adoption. And you've also got to understand that the gaming has, as you mentioned earlier, with community-based, communities are no longer geographically bound. They're happening worldwide. And some of these games have found really interesting ways to do that with how they cycle, how they build peer groups or server wars between their cohorts and geographical boundaries. And it's really creating a different culture where people build relationships that are tied into these games. And some of these Chinese games are really powerful in that way.
I don't want to sound like the old guy sitting on the porch saying, get off my lawn, but how much is too much? Because esports expansion, expanding and capitalizing the popularity of esports, kids out there doing this, 10, 12 hours a day.
Yeah, well, I think it's in anything in our life, whether it be diet, food, when is enough, like when it becomes too much, I think anything is unhealthy. But I don't think that we're going to be able to stop the gamification. Gamification has moved into the corporate business world, it's moved into our social lives. Gamification and what we've taken from these games and how it's changed our behaviors of how we interact and how we motivate, I don't see it slowing down.